Exercise 4. In this exercise, we'll begin to use a few of the special effects that Photoshop provides. To start with, we're going to make a canvas. Again, back to File, New. We're going to use inches this time. We're going to make this canvas 4.5 inches wide, 4.5, and we'll make it 3.5 inches high. I'm going to set the resolution at 200. Make sure the color mode is in RGB, and we're going to make the canvas white. We'll just click OK, and it'll create the canvas. And separate it from the top. Now I want to fill this canvas with color. We'll reset this back to the black and white, and we'll pick a color over here. Nice purple. And we're going to fill that canvas. We want the foreground color we just selected at 100%. Click OK. So we've now got this purple canvas. To add the special effects, we're going to add another layer on top of this. So we're going to go over here to the Layers palette. I'm going to go down to this little symbol down here, create a new layer, and we're going to add a new layer. Right now this is clear, so you don't see anything here. I'm going to go over here to the Marquee tools. I'm going to select the rectangular marquee. I'm going to go into the center here, and I'm going to create a nice little square there, and I'm going to fill it. Same foreground color, and then we're going to deselect it. Okay, at this point you notice you're not going to be able to see anything, but if you look over here on the Layers palette, you'll notice this new layer we created now has a little rectangular square, same color as the one below. So now we're going to go into the special effects. We're going to go right up here to Layers, and then we're going to go down to Layer Styles, and we're going to pick Bevel Emboss. Okay, immediately you'll notice you can now see the layer. The Bevel and Emboss is going to add an edge around this selection that we've put in here. Now this is a very complicated dialog box. You can do all kinds of things in it. Right now what we're going to do is make it pretty simple. So we'll go over and see some of these things. Now right here at the top, this triangle, that's going to control how deep it goes. So we'll begin to move it over. You can see a little deeper, a little less. Put it about right there. We can determine whether we want this to be going up or down. So in other words, whether we want it to be raised above the surface or to look like it's a hole in the surface. I'll just stay with that. We can choose how the size, and we can also choose how soft the edges get. Now the technique up in here, we can choose between smooth, hard, and chiseled soft. So let's look at chiseled hard, chiseled soft. Not a lot of difference there. I'm just going to go back to smooth. And then right up here at the top, style, you'll notice you have a number of different types of bevels. So what we've got right now, excuse me, we've got the, let's choose the emboss. So you can see what emboss looks like. Now let's also see what a pillow emboss looks like. Slight change there. And then let's go back and you can see what the bevels look like. Outer beveled, inner beveled. Okay, let's go with the inner bevel. Down here, these other areas, Here you can change the angle of the lines. And we can change another thing. We can change the lighting effects, global lighting or the other. We can also do some changes on opacity and so on. But right now we're just going to stick with the inner bevel, smooth, making it up, and we will click OK. So it has now applied this special effect. Okay, at this point I really don't want this to be the same color. So over here I'm going to go over to the history palette, and we're going to go back up to where we just get the rectangular marquee. Click on that. You'll notice all the steps disappear. We're now back to the marquee. We could go back and turn them back on if we want, so long as we don't change anything. In this case, I'm going to change something here. I'm going to change the color. So I'm going to go into here. I'm going to pick this yellow to go with it. I'm going to go back up here to Edit, Fill again, Foreground Color. I'm going to put the yellow in there. You'll notice now all the steps after that have disappeared. Once I change something, then I can't go back and turn other steps on. So we're now going to deselect this, and I'm going to go back again to the layers, the layer style, bevel and emboss, inner bevel up, size, we're going to make that a little more, depth. Okay, so I think I'll do chiseled hard. So we've got it pretty much there. Turn off the global lighting. And we'll put it back on in a different color. Okay, now let's add some other special effects into here. I'm going to go back to this layers, to the layer style. This time I'm going to choose the drop shadow. Now in lesson 3 we created our own drop shadow which could be moved around. Here we're going to let the computer create a drop shadow. So I'm going to change the distance here. We're going to make that 45 pixels. And I'm going to go to the size. We'll make that about 30 pixels. Yeah, down low, there we are. To about the 30 pixels. I'm going to go to this box right up here, and let's get a different color here. So when I click on that box, we're going to come up with the color selector here, and I want sort of a complementary color into there. We'll pick that. So now we shall notice the shadow has taken on the tint of this color. And you'll also see over here in the box what it's doing. So we now got a color. I'm going to set the mode up here. You'll notice you've got all different kinds of lightings you can choose. I'm going to set it to hard light, which is really going to bring out that color. And I'm going to shift the opacity just a little here. Let's bring that down to about 30. That's going to lighten the shadow up a little bit, so it's a little more like a shadow. So now we've got this effect put in. I'm going to, without closing this box, I'm going to go in and put in some more effects. So let's go over here. We're going to choose inner shadow. You'll notice I've still got the drop shadow, but now I'm going to do an inner shadow. So we've got the inner shadow there. Okay. There we go. Now we're getting the inner shadow. Move it in like that. Let's check its size. Choke. Begin to change some things here. I'm I also don't particularly like the black there, so let's go into a different color. Select this light green. It could be a little bit sickening, but we'll see. So now we got this like green inner shadow along with the outer shadow. We've got that put in, and we could change the angles if we want, but let's leave it that way. Now if you want, you can also go through and try to see what some of these other lighting effects would do. You can try them out and just see what you like. I'm going to go right back here again. We're going to put it back to normal lighting. Okay, so we've now got this inner shadow. Let's go over and we're going to choose outer glow. Now we can go back in here and we can do some changing. Let's bring the opacity all the way up. Let's change the size so we can get to see what that's doing. The spread, we'll keep that more minimal. We can go into precise or soft. You'll notice you begin to change a number of these things. Just bring the opacity down a little. So we're just adding some effects here. We'll continue working on down. Let's go to the inner glow. Again. The size, you'll notice it's putting it in there. Want to go from the center out, okay. Now noise is going to break it up from a solid, putting some texture into it, if you'd like to. But you just go around here, begin to figure what you like. When you got it, you can stop from there. So we now got inner glow. We're pretty much through here. We've already got the bevel and emboss. So at this point, let's click OK. We've now got all these effects on here. So now, what do we do with this? Right, not particularly interesting at this point, but there's a unique property to this. We can go into it, take another picture, put it in here, and it will add these effects to it. So let's go in and find out what we can do here. I'm going to go back to File. We're going to open a picture from the exercise 4. I'm going to choose the lily. Choose the bee or the lily, whichever you want. We'll open that up. Remember where this little checkerboard pattern is, it's clear. Where it's solid, that's color. I'm going to get rid of this white. So let's go to the magic wand. I'm going to go into here. We're going to click on that. And then I'm going to delete it. So now we've gotten rid of the white too. The reason I'm getting rid of this in the center, you'll see when we actually put this together, it'll then apply some of the effects that we've got into this center area as well. Otherwise it would only apply it around the edges here. Okay, so let's deselect this. Now, we'll separate the two pictures. Get this over here so I got it. With this particular technique, I've got to have both of these pictures exactly the same size. So let's go to this lily. We're going to go to Image. We're going to go to the canvas size. Leave it in the center. But remember, I had this 4.5 inches wide by 3.5 inches high. So we're going to create a canvas exactly the same size. Then I'm going to go in here, Image, and we're going to go to Image Size. Canvas creates this background it's on. Image size, we have to look at the resolution. Resolution here is 300. Remember, this canvas is 200, so let's change that. Now, remember, these two have to be exactly the same size. Okay, now I'm going to go back to the original canvas, And this is the part that a lot of people have problems with. Select all, and then we're going to delete it. That seems to be a real problem for people. They don't want to throw out all the work they've done. And then we're going to deselect it. Okay, but if you look over here on the Layers palette, you'll notice even though you threw out the picture, all of these effects you created are still there. So now I can go in, and we're going to go in back to the original image here. I'm going to go into Image, and then I'm going to go down here to Apply Image. Click on that. You'll notice suddenly the things come back here. But I'm going to go to the source for the apply image, and I'm going to pick the lily. And the magic trick. You'll notice it has applied all of those special effects I created to the lily. The real purpose of this exercise is to begin to understand the computer remembers what you've done. And anything you apply to this layer where you created these effects will immediately have all of the effects applied to it. Simple trick, but one that can be relatively useful. Okay, go in here now to your layer, flatten the image, and save it to your file.